We're just so excited to have you on our show here and share you with all of our beautiful light warriors that follow along for the journey with us on this platform. We just wanted to bring Ronna on because she does channel Archangel Michael, and she's been doing such a fantastic job over her years. She's 94 years of age, and we just absolutely adore you. You are such a blessing to us. You've helped us, awaken and activate through your channeling messages. And yeah, we just wanted to say thank you for that. Yeah.
It's an amazing example of how when you live in the high frequency energy, it could support your physical vessel. The mind, body, spirit complex raises to its optimum when you feel this energy and this information in your life, correct, Ronna?
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Michaelism is the greater the gifts, the greater the tests and challenges, and I can certainly attest to that. And so the first part of my life, first of all, I was in an accident when I was 5, which I broke my leg and also put my pelvis out of whack, and they didn't find it. So I have lived with that for all these years, and a good chiropractor has kept me going. But anyway, before I was 50, I had 5 surgeries and 6 broken bones. And but since I started channeling Michael, and that's when I was in my 60s. I've been doing this now for 30 years. I channel a master teacher first called Triton, but ever since Michael came in, my health has just gotten better and better. And like now, my blood work, my blood chemistries are excellent. My voice is not as good, my eyes and so on. But I have more. I wear all my assistants and everybody out. My body can't keep up with my mind and my energy, And so one of the things which you'll kind of find interesting. I had a family who had, the women were tall. My grandmother was 6'2", and so I'm 5'8", and I was always kind of into my body, with at the time and so on. And I've been a model. I've had quite an extensive career and so on. But when Michael started, he said, and this was during about 1987, when the harmonic convergence started, and there was a lot of people that woke up at that time. And immediately after I started channeling him, because the energy that he brings in is pretty dynamic. And if I was doing like a big seminar, my biggest seminar, my biggest event was 1,400 people. So as time went on, and that was usually with somebody else. But anyway, the night before, he would start sending the energy in, and it would be like I had a red hot poker running up and down my spine. And then the next morning, I would just be like I was on fire, but my skin would be ice cold. And I started putting on weight. And I've always been a semi-vegetarian, and I've been eating very light. We were poor, and we didn't have a lot of meat, so it was easy that way. And so lots of good veggies and everything and so on. But no matter what I did, I started putting on weight. And he speaks to me. I'm not real visual, but I see him, it's just there. Beloved, let me tell you this. If you are going to stay and integrate the energy that I will be sending through you, you will have to have some body mass. And so that was one of the ego things I had to, I had to kind of get over, and it's been fine. But now that I'm in a newer field, and I can handle it, I've slimmed down. So if out there, if all this energy is coming in and so on, it's not your fault. It's not a bad thing. Get out of your ego and know that all this will pass. If you want to stay where you are in 340, fine. But anyway,
I think a lot of our lady listeners will love that little tip. Put on weight, it's just the high realms coming on down and in to come out, darling.
We have our pride. It's not ego, but we have self-value, and we have our pride, and we want to look and be and present the best we can. And people say they love it. I like my jewelry. I like to have my hair done. I will not go out. That's me, and it's for me.
Yes.
It's because I want to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And like what I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you look amazing, by the way. I just love your You know, I'm gonna definitely mirror some of you when I get older as well. Love it.
So let's talk about, people wonder, they wonder a lot of, way back when they thought we were woo-woo, like in the 80s, 70s, 80s, everybody, and still, I mean, a lot of people, um, they, how is it, or why is it that the angels could talk during the time 2,000 years ago, because the angels could speak to everybody, but they can't now,
Mm.
you know? And so it's kind of interesting, but that's okay. It's fine. Everybody can think what they want. We know what we're doing, but just to give you that this was my divine blueprint. I've done this before. Everybody has the ability to channel, or to not channel, but to talk to their oversoul higher self, talk to their soul, talk to the angels, talk to their guardian angels and their teachers. It's available. It's a natural thing. And so the first indication that I had, I was the administrative assistant to the president of a company, and the head of advertising. She came in one morning. She said, I went to a really fun meeting last night. We were learning how to do automatic writing. And I said, what is that? And she says, well, you connect with your soul, and you allow it. You say, I give you permission to bring in information of the highest good. You go through a little ritual. And she says, then you hold a pen in your hand, and you wait. And some of us, back when I was in school, we did all of these kind of exercises, the pen had to be held a certain, or the pencil. And so we made circles, and we made these different, exercises. So all of a sudden, just out of the blue, my hand started making those circles, and it started making these things. And then it wrote LILLIAM, BEMMER. And she looked and she says, ask if you can know what that is. And it wrote in a real little not at this time. And then I don't know what else it said, but it said, go to your typewriter. Well, I had one of the best electric typewriters, and I went over and my things started moving, as have been waiting to connect with you. We are your guides, and we will help prepare you for, you are to be a messenger, da 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 da. And she says, stop right now. You've done this before. We've got to find. The teacher warns us that you don't want to tap into the astral planes, and you don't want to tap into somebody that's. So anyway, that kind of started me. This was in the 70s, okay? Wow. That kind of started me. It ends up that Lily, I wrote a trilogy of my oversoul higher self gave me 6 of my past important lives. This was after let's jump to Triton. After reading, I read Blavatsky, I read Bailey, I read all the ancient teachings. I had to go back, Theosophy, all of this. And half the time you'd read like 2 or 3 pages and say, what the heck did it say?
Yeah.
But, but I stuck with it, and I started meditating every morning. We retired. Well, after, let me go back a little bit. I had a first marriage that was a karmic marriage, but I had 3 lovely children. And my second man was very poor. I'm glad I was poor first. And I had a lovely second marriage in that my husband was an executive with the airlines. And we got to fly because he was in sales and promotion and that type of thing. He was regional marketing director for Western Airlines. And so I got to travel all over the world, first class, and stay in 5-star hotels and be treated like royalty. So I've been to sacred sites all over the world. And it was in preparation, for what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of, the segue. During the time that I was reading all this, starting to read and awaken, it was the last time that I broke my leg, which we were going down the Colorado River on the light raft. Well, it was another awakening lesson, because the dentist had showed me, it was a friend of mine, and he says, I've been using self-hypnosis with people to help them relax. And he said, would you like to try it? He says, it's pretty effective. And I said, sure. And he did his little job, and he says, I'll show you something too that I've been taught. He said, so you can start to get with your inner self, and now I call it my body buddy, you know, your body elemental, your subconscious, deep conscious, automatic, or your autonomic energy to keep everything going. But it does have intelligence. And so anyway, he said, while I was in this state, he said, all right, you're going to ask your body consciousness, or tell it that you give it permission to work through you, to so that you can communicate with it. And so you would like to have them indicate which of your fingers will be your yes answer. And all of a sudden, this finger popped up. And he says, now, which will be your no answer? And the middle finger popped up. And then which will be the negative, you aren't to know, or we don't know. That would be, some of that was my thumb. And so I started doing that all the time, you know, and it's wonderful. And so little things along the way. But along with that, he says, you are the best. I haven't had this success with, you know, anybody. And I says, well, what can I read? And so the book Mesmer, way back when there wasn't that much. So shortly after that was when I broke my leg, a spiral fracture of the tibia, and the fibula broke in 2 places. We were going down in this raft through the Colorado River, and it was absolutely spectacular. And we had my stepson, the one who my daughter is now married to. But anyway, he and I are sitting up. There was the big boat, and here's all the stuff in the middle. And then you're sitting here, and the pontoons are out to the side. Well, he and I were right up at the front. And he had a beginning driver there, and you're supposed to hit the rapid straight on. Well, he hit this rapid at an angle, and it took the pontoon, and instead of my legs in like this, I had it like this. So it took this leg and went crack, crack, crack. But it was on the boat behind us, there was a doctor, and he had painkillers, and he had meds. And of course, here's your steep falls of the Grand Canyon. And a plane they had, you know, the radios, but they have to go straight over. I mean, it was just like it was action, you know, roll them. A plane went over, they radioed them. Within a half hour, right down by a sandbar, they picked me up and they flew me out. They then flew me back to Salt Lake, where we lived. And so I had been reading. I had been, this was when I was administrative assistant to the president, so I had time off. So I was reading this information about healing and so on. So within 2 or 3 days, I did stop taking the pain pills, and within 6 weeks, was it 6 weeks? Maybe a little bit longer, but anyway, no, it had to be 6 weeks. I mean, my husband took me to the doctor. I said, I'm going to be in a walking cast today. And he said, honey, it's too soon. Don't get your excitement. You know, don't get all excited. I think maybe it was longer. Anyway, let's just say it was not that long. And when we got there, he came in and said, I don't know. You're amazing. You're healing like a 16-year-old. I'm going to put you in a walking cast.
Oh.
And I said, can I tell you what I'm doing? And he says, sure. And I told him, and I said, don't make fun of me, but I was sending love to it. And I was sending healing energy. He says, I'm not making fun of you. There are so many things about the physical vessel that we do not understand. I was skiing in 5 months, and that was right where the break was. So that was Spirit's way of showing me what I could do, what we can do with our physical vessel if we make up our mind to. And that's the way the miracles have gone on through my life. I've had, you know, some pretty hard knocks and some things. But in retrospect, and I say this in my Odyssey, I wrote these 6 stories that I wrote called Once Upon a New World. Actually, that was during the time. Oh, well, let's stop. Let me back up. Let's go to after I was meditating and beginning to really get some results. I'd lie on the bed and I'd start vibrating, and it'd say, stay with it, stay with it. First of all, I got a lot of ugly, dark pictures, like when they're going through the astral plane, you know. And it's just stay with it, stay with it. And so this, you know, I kind of had just it kind of nursed me through all of this. Well, then I started a class with some women, and we started, each one of us had to lead the group, and one gal brought in a book of angels, and she had us all pick an angel, and I picked Archangel Michael, of course. But anyway, along with that same time, we belonged to country clubs and with his business, and it was getting and golfing groups and so on. And I was not liking it anymore. It was the same thing, and it was God, and so the divine discontent started, and I started having back problems. And I just wasn't, I said, I'm not going to with that group anymore. I don't enjoy it. It's just the same. Everybody gripe,
Yes.
So one morning I started putting on some weight, and my back was bothering me. I'm stretched out on the floor. And it's just like, oh, we have a beautiful home. We're retired. We're not rich, but we're comfortable, and everything's great. But here I am with the feeling this deep sadness and tears pouring out my eyes. And it was as if I symbolically, with my hand, my little soul in my hand, saying, here, God, you take it. I don't know what to do with it. And all of a sudden, this voice boomed into my head. Well, it's about time. We've been waiting for you to get your ego out of the way so we can begin to work with you. I am called Triton, Triton. And I think he said, I am your oversight. I don't know. He gave me, he said he was something anyway, one of my guides or whatever. And he said, you are to be a messenger and bring forth the new wisdom for the coming age, and da 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 da. And there was more to the message. But from that instant, I became a cosmic telepath. And I didn't know for many years what it was, but have you read in the books, like we talk about memory seed atoms?
Yes.
The memory seed atoms, everything is in holograms. It's just like, for instance, we're going back. He said, you're not on you're not making your ascension in a linear time-oriented manner. You are on a spiral. You're going back into the past, healing the past as you spiral into the future. And even in the Bible, it talks about you will be affected by 7 generations of your ancestry. And if we're going back to the past, healing our past lives, if everybody's doing that, that's changing everything. Everything would be total chaos. And I thought, how can that be? Well, everything's in holograms in our DNA and throughout, so that we go into that particular hologram, we change it, like for our family and for whom those generations and so on. You change that hologram and bring it back into balance and harmonize within you, which look at how many people were in that hologram and so on. And so it's in divine order, because it's just adding to your light, which increases, then you radiate out and add it to their light and so on. Isn't that perfect?
That's beautiful.
I love, Ronna, how the information came through for you. So like clearly you got the name, and you got, I'm here, been waiting for you. I'm here, like I'm ready to connect. Because for a lot of people, it's like vague. Lots of people feel like something wants to connect, but they don't know what. Have you heard that?
Yes. And so there's many different ways, excuse me, many people, when they're young, they get into it, but that ability is there. But with some of us who have done this many times before, you have that memory seed atom within your sacred mind, and you made that agreement before you came. And so Triton sent down a memory seed atom to me, which activated one within my brain structure. I agreed and said, well, there always has to be an energy exchange. I agreed and sent it back to him, which firmed, which established the connection. And Michael, it was the same way. When in 1992, from 80, I worked at Triton from 86 to 92 when Michael came to me, and then the same thing happened with Michael.
Wow. So when Michael came through to you, was it a significant, like, different feeling or energy?
It was with Triton, it was very subtle. The energy was sweet, and it was, I definitely felt it. But with Triton, this was in February of 1992, and I was out there at that time I was channeling. Along the way, along with that, right after, during that time, I had some tests and challenges and everything. But anyway, I started doing classes, and I started doing some readings, but actually when I started channeling Triton, voice channeling, before, at first it was on the typewriter. Okay. Yeah. And one of the first things was, we retired into the foothills in Southern California, outside of San Diego, into the foothills of Laguna Mountains. Like I said, when Triton came to me, and we were raising Christmas trees, and I would go out and take off the new growth of the Christmas trees and talk to him and so on. And after a while, I started doing readings and past life readings, and he started giving me information. And so one day I was walking across, we had 1.5 acres, and it was all landscaped. It was beautiful, because I liked working outside after I'm a Sagittarian, and so I want to be outside, and I'm very active outside. Yeah. And so I'm walking across our yard, and he says, "You will write a book, and it'll be called Once Upon a New World." And I said, "No, I won't." So let me go back a little bit. We were very poor when I was young, and my father was never present. I hardly knew him. I never had a serious conversation with him. And so and back then, this is in the 40s, okay? I was very old, very young, and very responsible, because, my mother worked too, and had to take care of my brothers. And so I was pretty mature, but I got married 1 week before I was 16 years old.
Wow.
It was a karmic marriage. I married a Marine, married 5 years older than me. It was a heavy-duty karmic marriage, and taught me a lot, but I got my children. But anyway, I didn't finish high school, but I started learning. I read, and, I started to learn the things I wanted to know. And so, but I was not real confident. Like I kept taking college classes. I took shorthand and business English and all those things, because I wanted to be a secretary, And so I ended up administrative assistant to the president of the company, but I still was not real comfortable with my education. And so when he said, "You're going to write a book," so because by shorthand at night, my husband, we'd watch television and in our beautiful big great room. And I had legal pad, and all of these stories started coming, and I started taking shorthand. And then the next day I'd go in and transcribe it. It ended up 6 stories, 325 pages.
Wow.
And like the first one, I am a rascal. I'm not a nice person, but I understand why they did that one first, because I had like a very dear friend who said that. I said, I wasn't ashamed of it, but I was a bad dude. And so, but it showed, she says, that showed me that no matter what you do when you're, in earlier years, you can overcome it and you're not judged. Because if you were like that and what you are now, it must be okay.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I paid to go to an agent at a seminar and so on. And she looked at the book. She said, "This is incredible. But this first story, that isn't your hero." I said, "He may not be my hero, but that's," she says, "It should be this other guy." No. And she says, it's stories are good, but they're like synopsis. You need to expand it. It ended up 825 pages.
Oh, yeah.
And three published books. But it was very major lives for me. And I really understand why I did that. Then when Michael wanted me to start writing books for him, I said, "What about the trilogy? It hasn't done that well, and so on." Well, he says, "Let me tell you this way, beloved." And then this is one of those times I can see him almost like at a table with his feet up there, and you can see him back. "Let me tell you this, beloved. First of all, it was a test to see if you would stick with it. If you had the tenacity to stick with it, to show you that you could write. And besides, your ego was so tied to that work. If it was a success then, which it will be, you would not have gone on to do your real work."
All these little things, little tests.
And so you see how all of these things, and I can tell you stories all day of how I'd be going along, and we'd be having groups like in San Diego. We started out with just small groups, and before long, because we'd allow other people doing things to come and present. So they'd bring their little satellite groups. So we went from 50 to 20 to over 100 people. We'd have it once a month. And then Michael would say, it's time for you to go in sanctuary. So at the null zone. So he would pull me back. And what he was getting me ready then was to go out to start traveling in the world.
Right.
And so that's happened all through this journey with him. We'd get to a point and it would be, then withdraw and that's like, I don't call it initiations. I call it dark nights of the soul and rites of passage.
Yeah.
And so you're right. We're riding the waves like this. And in the beginning, they're like this.
Yeah.
Okay. But then they get like this. And then now it's just.
It's a beautiful vibration now. Yeah.
And so that's what I say to people. They're making progress. They're doing their exercises. They're radiating love. They've opened their heart. They were beginning to change themselves and not projected out there on someone else. They're doing everything right. And then all of a sudden they go into an old zone. That's part of it. You have to, first of all, it's just information. You have to take that information and turn it into knowledge, put it in with what you believe is right, and so run it through your heart monitor to see if it resonates with you. If it does, if it's good, if it's helpful, if it's loving, and it's informative, and it feels good, then okay, you can accept it. But if it's in a way negative or controlling or fearful, then reject it. It might be that it's just so different, and then with something like that, I kind of put it out here and say, if this is to be my truth, I'd like it validated in the physical at least a couple of times. And it always is.
Yeah.
And so you have to take that information, see how it fits with your blueprint or who you are and your philosophy of life. If it adds to it and it's informative and it's empowering, then you have to integrate it and turn it into wisdom. And then you have to live it. And you have to become it. And then he says, after that, then you teach by example first. And then you can do it by words because you have to be the example. You no longer can say, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
So when you work with people now, Ronna, what daily practices do you encourage them to do to down their path? Because often people
first of all, like with meditation, and we teach the infinity breath, which is so empowering. It's ancient breathing, and it's in reference to Revelations, and it's in Scripting Your Destiny, all the illustrations, but it's deep breathing. It's starting at the solar power center. As we begin to work through the chakras, and first of all, the first thing we start doing is toning and understanding that these are like 7 mind centers. And there's positive and negative to both of them, but they are empowering, and they are all supposed to spin truly, but they've become distorted. And so there's like 7 different facets of your being that are fighting each other. And so we resonate to the harmonics of 7 because we in this galaxy, we were a part of 12 planets, but then we sank into the density of the 4th and the 3rd dimension. We dropped to the harmonics of 7. And so that's what we're doing now. We are activating, integrating those 5 higher galactic rays. We're becoming galactic consciousness and not just Earth consciousness. And so we are in the process. It's like in the Bible, it talks about the 7 seals. Okay, this is the 7 seals of higher consciousness. And through the breathing techniques, through toning, there's vowel sounds. That's very important because light, sound, and color are the modalities of transformation, healing, balance, and harmony. And so we teach toning, and the sounds are there in the books as well. And then as you bring each one into harmony and begin to, okay, first of all, you know how we are in a spectrum of light and shadow. As we sank into the density in this experiment and duality and polarity, it's like in the higher realms, in the 5th dimension, say we were resonating to 220 energy, 220 volts of energy. When we drop down, we cut it down to 110. The primal life force substance, which can be used for good or for not good. And that's what most of humanity at this time is functioning. They're functioning on half spectrum energy. So we, in the column of light, it was balanced. There's a column in between here that we are to make good, better, and best choices. And so it's like that's the symbol of the cross. We're a pillar of light and became a cross of matter.
Yeah.
And it was balanced. And so the cross of the shadow side, Michael doesn't say dark, the shadow side got much wider and the light side got much less.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the process we're coming back into now, bringing it back in to the appropriate spectrum of light and shadow, walking the middle path. And so instead of being a cross of matter, we're going to be a pillar of light, and our cross is going to be radiating energy from the front and back portal of the heart.
I love that. That's beautiful.
And so that is the process, very simply, of what we're doing now. So with all of this, all of the exercises have a purpose. And so the toning, the sounds, the frequencies, what you want to do is balance and harmonize those first three chakras and open the heart chakra, the middle, in the harmonics of 7, that middle, the fourth, that first, second, third, that's the test. This is the middle point, and then these are the higher, or the balancing and harmonizing, and so on. And so Michael said, open up, balance and harmonize those first lower chakras of scarcity, security, power, and all this negative sexual energy and everything. Open the heart center so that and we were functioning from the solar plexus, attaching energy cords to each other. Going outside of ourselves, we forgot that we have energy, all that we need, coming from the source. And so we began to attach energy cords to each other and do this cosmic dance, because we were looking outside of ourselves. We forgot that we have everything we need right in here. And so he says, all you have to do is balance 50% of that negative energy and begin to do 1% good. And you will begin to build your solar power center, which is the solar plexus, the heart, the thymus, and the throat, so that this is your energy source. And then you begin to remove the shield from the heart, so you tap into your sacred heart, which is in the fifth dimensional, it's etheric. And in your sacred mind, there is the pituitary, the energy that comes through, goes through the pineal, the pituitary, and then into the sacred mind. And you gradually open or clear the membrane of light there, and you go into like this beautiful room, and there's all these vaults, and you can see them opening, and all of these little diamond, beautiful, sparkling, all those holograms. Then you see
I know too.
Yeah, I've felt that.
And so that's when you begin to tap in a higher aspect of your soul self. So this one is very important too. Let me give you this one. When we, our sacred triad in the fifth dimension, and when we agreed to come into the hologram, to come into this experiment of duality, and we as starseed, we didn't belong here. This is our job. We've done this before. And so we agreed to it. And so we came into that hologram. And so then we stepped down until we came here into the fourth and third dimension, of course. And each of us came into the family union, or the hologram that was appropriate for us. So you didn't come where you belong, because you don't belong here at all. But you came into the level that was the best place for you to do what you needed to do. And so here, you agreed to you were shown what you would have to do. It was like they cleared a lot of our minor karma. A lot of it's going to be too much, but they showed us the vast number of things that it was important, those major things that we had to clear. And we looked down and we said, oh, I can do that. Pretty easy from there. And so here we are. And so your mother has conceived. And in that embryo, there is your you have the column of light, and you have a star, you have a soul star that is above the crown chakra, maybe 6-8 inches. And so your divine blueprint and your oversoul self moves into that star seed, that soul star. And the first little memory seed atom, the first facet of that, moves into the embryo. And that is that one is what rules you, is over you for the first 7 years. And you have, and like in the Bible also, we have taken all of these things and brought the quotes that are in the Bible that are saying the same thing in a different way.
Mm.
And so, like it said, you will be affected by 7 generations of your ancestry, and every 7 years you will have a body. I don't know how it says it. Paraphrase it. I've read the Bible twice, but I don't remember. But 7 times every 7 years you will have a body renewal, something. So at 7 is the first soul download, when you begin to become a person, and not, and have some opinions and have some thoughts of your own and so on. Then another one at 14, right from 12 to 14 or 15, and one 21 to 25 or so. And and so each one of those.
We're just thinking about our ages.
A
lifetime.
And for us, see, the dark nights of the soul, or like a lot of the guys and gals, like in their 40s, they're not very happy. The guy goes out and buys, or in his 50s, maybe 60s, goes out and buys a Porsche or something, and gets a 25-year-old. So this goes on first and second, when you're in your 20s, and by then you should be opening the heart chakra. If you're not, if you haven't done that, your job, and cleared at least 51% of the negative karma and begun to do some positive things, it turns around and goes back down into the root chakra, Kundalini. In the root chakra, there's 3 memory seed atoms: your divine blueprint, your oversoul self, your divine blueprint, adamantine particles to activate that. And the third one is what we're getting now. It's the residual things at the end, the negative things that we need. It's an inside job. It's all about we've cleared things out here. We got everything pretty well set. It's all in the body. And it's all balancing and harmonizing those things that distortions you've created within your physical vessel that need to be brought into harmony, so you can begin to build clear your auric field. You see, we have that Adam and Eve Cadmon body, that perfect divine blueprint. That's the etheric body, and then we have the auric field. When the negativity started, it came through that from there first. It caused the distortions throughout the auric field, and then the etheric body, and finally into the physical body. We're doing it the opposite now. We have to clear the physical body, so it then can begin to clear the auric field, and so on. And so that's why so many people in their 50s and so you're in the 60s, 60s, early 70s for the last one. But when they get to here, so many people never get past that third one, and their life is over. They become bitter, and it goes back to those 3 lower chakras and magnifies all the negativity.
Yeah, we see it. Oh, yeah.
But isn't it wonderful to see? Just, I mean, boy, if that's not incentive, I don't know what it is. I mean, those going to make people wake up and say, "I better get with it."
That's right. But that age group, 50s, it's hard for them to change because their ego is so.
Oh, yes.
I'm right. I'm stubborn.
I know. My husband, he retired and we were social drinkers. I not like him, but I like wine, and I liked these little sweet drinks, or something. But he became a functioning alcoholic back then, with his big job, and his job was his identity. but you know, the two martini lunches and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, we do know.
Sales and so on, and I mean, we held big parties and events. That was his job, and so, but he retired before he was 60, and I retired too, which is pretty early. But it was like he almost. It was his identity. He became a roaring alcoholic. And I started going this way. Actually, we another one of the big stories that I see my angels were taking care of us when we retired. Like I say, we were comfortable. This beautiful home up in the hills. You know, he drove a Mercedes, and I drove it most of the time, but I bought it for him. I was a real estate broker, and I sold. I had a successful office, about 30 people, and so life was good. You know, life was really good. But when he retired, he put a lot of his money, we put it into a tax shelter. Back then, they had a lot of tax shelters, along with some government bonds and so on. Well, a lot of little people, and it was books on tape, for God's sake. I mean, look at how big it is.
Yeah.
But the little people were getting all these stuffs, and Congress didn't like that, and so they made a tax reform act, the TEFRA, tax reform something, went back and disallowed all of those, and so they in 1992, when I started channeling Michael, boy, what a hit! In December of that year, I got a tax notice for, I think, 18,000 and 22,000. I mean, you know, a big amount. And my husband had a stroke the next day.
Oh.
And I fought it for 2 years. We ended up with $10,000. They took it. They took it to tax court. Of course, we lost, you know. And so and then also my youngest son had gone to live with his father when he was about 14. And he had an incredible chart, but it was a very difficult chart. I mean, it was either this way or this way. And he got on drugs and was not doing well. His older brother called me and said, "Mom, don't be surprised if you hear that Gary is overdosed. I'm trying to help him." So I was bearing this during this time. And for 2 years, I used to go out in my car. I'd get so heavy. And it'd just feel like I was having a heart attack, and I didn't dare show it with my husband. You know, he changed from an A type to a B type. He just changed. He became just another person. In fact, he said, "I want to die." I mean, we were left with $10,000. That's what after we paid back what we thought we owed, but then interest rates were like 13% then. And so anyway, so here we are, no money. So that's why I had to go back to work. And so I started doing readings and so on. And I'd go out in my car and I would cry. And I said, "Michael, you have to help me if I'm going to do this." And he showed me how. He said, "I want you to break this energy." And I've done it in my seminars, and I kind of giggle when I do it. But I'd have people close their eyes, and I, of course, with that microphone. And he'd have me take a very deep breath and then expel it, really just do that 3 or 4 times, and they would break the energy. And he'd wrap it in a bubble of love so that I could function then for a while. And so as this drug on, finally toward the end, I was getting pretty desperate. And he said, "Does your abundance depend upon that money? Is that what you feel?" I don't know. "Well, think about it. If your abundance is, think about that. And if you will come to center, come to neutral with it and allow it to be, and allow it to work out, then we'll take over." And I did that. And actually a little IRS agent that I thought, "Well, I hope I don't get him." I did get him, and he helped us not to lose the lid. And it was resolved. Within 2 years, I was invited to go to Japan. There was a professor who was excellent English, and if he recommended a book, the publishers would start to bid on it. He asked to translate On Wings of Light, and they got the publisher. They published all my books. I went over there 7 times. And each time I came back, well, 2 events paid off my house.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
See,
And so it all came back plus.
so you had to
Wow.
go through all of that to learn, and then like to center and trust, and then they were like, they'll do the heavy lifting for you here.
Yeah.
And there you are, it got shown, like physically got shown how it would happen.
And so now, my favorite mantra is all my needs and desires are met even before I know what they are. And everything that happens, I've surrendered. And I think something will kind of happen. I'll say, okay, God, if that's what you want to do with your money, it must be the right thing.
Yeah.
It always works. It works. It's amazing.
Amazing. I love that story. Just, we're really moving with the energy now and listening to that higher self, that higher mind, and surrendering and letting the energy of the divine move through us and separating that ego and just being patient, because we have to learn to trust and let the universe do the heavy lifting and not use our force and our will, and have that faith that everything will play out,
Yes.
And the more we take the foot off the pedal and just hands off the wheel, everything divinely is coming, and it's speeding up now for us. And we're seeing this manifestation coming in.
Oh, hey. Yeah. And like I say,
what you're sharing.
it's instant karma now too. We see people have these things happen and they die, and it maybe take a couple of lifetimes. Like it's instant karma now. Like I say, you can't hardly move without getting busted.
Yeah.
But the dispensations too. See, we no longer have. This was a total free will, along with the the duality. We were given total free will to see how responsible we would be and how we would function. And we haven't done very well. However, it is a success. We are making it a success because the light workers, they know now. They say never again will any group, souls be allowed to sink into the third dimensional density. Yeah. And so it is a success because we're the ones that are bringing that all back to balance and harmony. All of the dimensional levels, they say that the first is lifting up. No, they're just being brought back to that approved spectrum of duality. So they've taken away our total free will because we're destroying ourselves. So we're getting instant karma, but we're also, if you're on the path, you're doing your job, you're doing it right for the right reasons. Look at the divine dispensations we're getting.
Yeah.
Look at the help we're getting. I mean, it's amazing. And so all the things that have happened to me, and that's just a little inkling, my odyssey. I wrote my story for my family and everybody. And I've had people in the past say, boy, you sure must have been bad, did a lot of bad things. We all did.
Yeah.
We all did. Yeah. But I look back and see the perfectness in all of it.
Because you've healed, you've forgiven yourself, you lent into the learning, that duality. Without that, we don't have this love, and it's a blessing, that's the soul growth. And yeah, that's really good.
And I want to direct something to you. It's like this. I see that you're quite balanced in your masculine and feminine energy, which is very, very important. The goddess is back, but we talk about, it isn't just the masculine. Michael said humanity has been battling the sexes is really about yourself. And I love all my boy girlfriends I have. They are so beautiful. And we don't just talk about cars and guns and votes and so on. We can talk just about anything. Like with Randy, he's my best friend. And we've been together in many, many lifetimes, but we've never had a romance. Which is someone thought, I think he's 78. But anyway, someone's going, you guys get,
You never know what's coming for you.
We're not a couple. No, absolutely not. But he's my best bud, and it's wonderful. And they say the goddess is back. Well, it's not just the women that are bringing the goddess back. The men are too, just like the women are taking our power. And we don't want, like I just posted on Facebook, we don't want to lead except when it's appropriate. We don't want to follow except when that's appropriate. We just want to be equal and do our job. And if it's our turn to lead, fine. But this battle of the sexes, you think you have to, you can be as masculine or feminine as you want, but if you don't have both, you're missing half of it. And so I love it when you what you have is probably the only thing I envy, having a partner that you can both be on the path together, and because otherwise it becomes a shell, and it's so sad.
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing that really needs to be focused on, to begin to accept both your masculine and feminine side. And I will tell you, my last rite of passage was when I wrote High Vibes, the last book I just wrote, which is the Master Manual Teachers. High Vibes for was provocative. High Vibes. Well, that's it. High Vibe for provocative concepts for lofty minds. It's my Master Teacher's Manual. But within there, it's talking about the goddess is back. The goddess is coming in, the feminine energy, but it's coming in men and women. It's coming in both. And so we see the archangels as being separate, they're being separate and so on. And so I've always seen Lady Faith on this shoulder and Michael behind me here. And not on the shoulder, but behind me. And I asked her some time ago, why is Michael always so active? And I feel you, but you're not really active and presenting and so on. And she says, beloved, I have been with you for many lifetimes, but this lifetime, it is time for you, because I don't have a temper and I don't like confrontation. And so both of my husbands, it was about taking my power. And both of them ended up saying, why aren't you like you used to be? What happened to you? When I started to become a person rather than the shadow, or, and so this was in July, and I sit in front of my vanities and I do some of the breathing exercises. One is just bringing in light, breathing out love, the deep breathing. My blood oxygen is excellent, and my lung capacity and everything for my age, because I do a lot of deep breathing and I do it regularly. And so anyway, my back, because of my pelvis, does bother me. I now use a walker most of the time because of the stability, and it's because of my pelvis bone. It's my pelvis girdle, and so my back, it hurt. That I thought, oh, gee, no, oh, so I was kind of having a pity party, and so I did some breathing, and all of a sudden, I was doing the breathing. I was breathing, bringing in light, breathing out love. And all of a sudden, my arms went out like this, my cross. Then they went up like this, my rod of power. And when I take, sometimes there's different ways, but sometimes when they do a download, I will start to vibrate. And so I started to vibrate pretty hard. Well, I stood probably close to a minute, felt like longer. And then my arms dropped. And Lady Faith came through. And she said, beloved, we have been talking about the goddess and the goddess returning. And she said, it's time for you to understand. You have balanced and harmonized the right and left hemispheres of your brain, which were unified, the mental, the linear, the analytical, the outward focus, seed thoughts of God, and the intuitive, the creative, the loving, the compassionate, creative side of the goddess. And he said, when we also had to send facets of ourselves down through the dimensions. And when we brought facets of ourselves to the fifth dimension to overlight you when you were in the fourth dimension, it had to appear just like the Vesica Pisces, using this with the father, and then the mother, and then the cosmic womb. The father forces seed thoughts into the cosmic room, and the mother activates them with her love and compassion and her creative energy. And then they create the paradise son and daughters. So it's the same thing as we do in a different way. So she says, we had to seem to be separated, but we're really not. We too exist as unified in that Vesica Pisces sun. And she says, but now, if you have balanced and harmonized, and you have balanced your energy, and you are at the doorway of the fifth dimension, we can now rejoin. And I felt them go together at the back portal of my heart and enter from the back portal of my heart and move into their auric field.
Beautiful. I love that. It's like so much, so good, isn't it? It's like just this, oh, it's just beautiful, isn't it?
So do you have it? Before we go, do you have any question? Do you have anything that
You've given some great little tips and insights as to, you know, how to raise your vibration, how to balance ourselves. Yeah. Is there any profound things that stood out in your mind when you got channeled through from Archangel Michael that have just always stuck with you and just been really sacred in your heart? Like, you know, how you hear something and it just rings so much truth in the depths of your soul. Is there anything that comes to mind?
One of the things I do now, because to balance and harmonize, but you can still use it. The infinity sign is the sacred sign, and it's like you have an infinity sign. You have a 12 ray creative wheel around you, but we won't go in there. But you're sending the future. This is the future before you, and you're dragging your designer baggage behind you. That's your past.
I love it. Designer baggage. I love the way you just.
And so what you want to do is, as you're healing the past, you're healing that energy so that it becomes pure. So just envision the negative thoughts that you have are going back there and adding to that weight back there. And the loving thoughts you're sending out are going before you and creating the universe. It changes itself to fit your picture of reality. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the thoughts you have today is what's creating your reality of tomorrow. And so the main thing is to try and practice on not getting caught, being an observer, being in the world but not of it. All that negativity, get off the negative news, get off all of that. Everything that's happening is out there, but it's where you put your energy. That's where you focus on. That's where you're adding energy. And so stop listening. Start listening to your own monkey mind. And what is your own radio station playing? First of all, like Michael said, most people way back when never had an independent thought of their own. It's all conditioning from family, religion, culture. And so if you can begin to monitor and focus, and the virtue of selfishness, I ask everyone for a time. It is not selfish to think and love yourself. If you can't love and accept yourself, you can't give away what you don't have. So there is a virtue in selfishness. Who am I? What am I thinking? What do I want to become? What is my passion? And while you're looking for that, start focusing on the things you don't want in your life. And not negatively, but look at your interactions. Where is there an energy exchange? Who are you enabling? There has to be an energy change, because it either becomes a no thing or you're enabling the other person. And do not be afraid to begin to set boundaries. That was the toughest thing for me. It's easier to acquiesce and give in till you give yourself away. And so the virtue of selfishness, start by going and looking in the mirror in your beautiful eyes and say, I am loving, I am lovable, I am loved. After I'd have an argument with my husband, the tears go, I'm loving, I'm lovable, I'm loved. But it's very powerful. And while you begin to focus on yourself and forgive yourself and see the good in yourself, you begin to allow the energy to come in that fits that, so that you fill yourself and you begin to get the love this way instead of trying the energetic cords. There is a process of cutting the energy cords, going in and lying on the crystal table and confronting or sitting at the crystal table with other people, see their soul self there, and go through the process of I break all agreements, past, present, future, of any negative energy I have sent to you. that have not been of love.
Mm.
And then forgive them and ask their forgiveness. And see Archangel Michael cutting the energy cords. He will with his sword of light.
Mm.
And begin to gradually take back your power and begin to feel the love. And once you get that bliss feeling, you begin to feel love here. You never feel alone anymore. And you know that that's the pure love. And you don't worry, you know, like one of the sayings of charcoal witter in California, what you think of me is none of my business. Think of that. It's what I think of me. And I am loved, I am loving, I am lovable. And then you forget about yourself. You become selfless. The virtue of selfishness. I don't worry about it. I've got all the love and the loves that I have from everybody. So I dedicate 20% of the adamantine particles, the loving energy, to the world silver pyramid. And I don't even think about myself anymore. I just, morning and night, I have a routine. I breathe in light and breathe out love. And it's deep breathing. And I get the infinity breath, kind of the roll to it. It's very powerful. But the breath carries adamantine particles, your bloodstream, into your bloodstream.
Mm.
And like he says, if you do nothing to bring in the maximum amount of love light and share it with the world, it is enough.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's a really beautiful, yeah, we're just loving chatting to you. You're so angelic. You really are. And it's just,
I'm a 30-year instant success.
yes, you are. So if everyone, we're going to wrap it up because it is coming to that time, and we've really enjoyed having you here. Hey, like really, it's been such a blessing, and I'd love to have you back again when you feel that. And if you feel that, of course, to share your wisdom. You've got so much wisdom to share with all of.
Like someone asked if I could I speak for 2 hours because someone didn't show up. I said, honey, I can speak for 2 days.
I love it.
And so please mention my website.
Yes, go ahead and now I'd love you to share with everyone how they could find your work and buy some of these amazing channel books.
I have at least 16 books. There's 7 of Archangel Michael's messages and a lot of e-booklets, and they're all in e-booklets. It's postage to Australia is horrible, but I put everything on ebooks, PDF downloads, and it's www.starquestmastery.com, and on YouTube too. All of the books are narrated on StarQuest Mastery, and a lot of the illustrations, mine and Michael's gift to the world, because my mission is to get the work out there. And so I gifted in Canada, David, on Above and Beyond Duality. He does little snippets and with some wonderful illustrations. So the work is out there. And if they, I appreciate the support and the donations or whatever, but it's out there, and I am allowing, just like you, if you're doing the work and it meets my criteria, no, I will share it with you and with blessings and all. Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.